Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I'm a transformational life coach, and I am in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching, whichever you're doing with us today. We just want to let you know we often mention Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks on the podcast. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. Sounds kind of weird, but it's actually pretty cool. You can find out more about them either by searching on YouTube or your browser search engine for Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks, or you can also find out more about them on their website at abraham-hicks.com. Each week we start our discussion here on the podcast from a different jumping off point, and this week I had something I wanted to talk about, which is, and it came out of last week's episode, in which we talked about sort of not, we mentioned several things, but one thing we talked about was not, sort of stopping in the middle of our allowing process and getting into crankiness and demanding to know why the thing hasn't arrived yet, because that does not help the thing arrive sooner. But one thing I was wondering is, or I wanted to talk about is, why is it sometimes that it feels it's just so much more tempting to focus on things that are missing or things that aren't right or things we think are wrong than things we think are correct or things are good, Like, there's this idea in our society that we all want to be happy, but you wouldn't know it by eavesdropping on most conversations. Because the most common thing for two humans to do when they get together is to bitch or complain about something that's going on. And it could be something big, or it could be something like, oh, my car's making that noise again. I'm so sick of this car, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, what I'm aware of is I'm way better than I used to be, but I still have a habit of like, when somebody says, "Hey, how are you doing?" I either say, "Oh, I'm doing good," and I don't provide much detail beyond that. Or if I've got something to be cranky and complaining about, I'll go, "Well, I'm all right, but let me tell you about this thing that's not going so well." And that I can talk about all day,
Or do you say, or you just say, "I'm doing pretty good, but..."
Yeah.
And then go into...
Which basically saying, I don't feel like I'm doing very good at all. But it's just like, I'm just aware of like, it doesn't always feel, I realize it is a choice. Like I am making a choice there, but it feels very quick, and it almost doesn't feel like a choice. It just feels like a habit, where it's just easier that my brain is like more engaged when we're talking about something that's like off or wrong that needs to be fixed or corrected than, you know what, yesterday, because you told me a story in our friend time before the episode about this amazing little project you have of finding these little decorations that you want to have and maybe make some more to give to others. And it was this wonderful story of you, like, trying to figure out, how these things are made or how you can make them on your own and everything. But like that, I feel like that's unusual, like we have to choose to talk about, I did this thing and it was really awesome and it was really great. And let me tell you the details of how great it was. But that's actually what if we're talking in that way, we're usually in a high vibration. We're usually feeling good. And that's the state where you welcome, number one, as we always say, feeling good is great. So it's just good on its own, but it's also the state in which it's a vibrational state in which you allow more of what you want into your life, to be manifested.
And it's really who we are. It's that energy, that high vibrational state is who we are. It's because we are more a spiritual being than we are this human being. Yet, because it's because our brain, we're wired to find and fix problems. And that's why.
I think so. When you just said that, when you said that's who we truly are, in other words, our real inner nature or
Mhm.
fundamental nature
Mhm.
is a being that observes and appreciates
Finds
wonderful
joy.
things,
Go
joy.
to any park, and you see kids anywhere from the ages of like 3 and 4. Most of them are running around playing, laughing, screaming with joy. Just like they may stumble and fall and cry for a second, but then within 30 seconds, they're up there and they're on the jungle gym climbing, and like they are the closest energetically to who we really are. And all the other stuff, like you and I, we've had decades of contrast and of programming that's not, most of it's not of our highest good. That is, if someone had kept us in that joy-filled state, like really infused that in us and was like, yeah, that is who you really are, and I promote that in you in every day of your life.
Yeah.
I don't even know. However, and I'm not knocking who we are today, because all the contrast I've lived has helped me be who I am today.
Mm.
And so, however, getting back to, that childlike state, that's who we are. Like you have an inner child, I have an inner child, when we have an inner teenager and all that's still within us. And I think that's what makes a healthy adult, is when we go to work every day, we brush our teeth, and we go and play ball, and we, go run at the beach with our dog, and we, whatever it may be, we go hang out with our friends and we laugh and we play basketball or we color, whatever it is. Like that also feeds that inner child. And so we need both, and
Well,
it makes for a happier life.
the way I know for myself that our true nature is, one that's good and seeks joy and seeks, compassion and love and empathy and all this stuff, is, I'll just use a very LA example.
Mm.
Um, if I'm driving along and having a pretty good day, and I'm in LA traffic, and somebody cuts me off in what I perceive to be a very asshole-ish way, um, I have two basic choices of how to respond. One of them is to just get really angry, really cranky, and be like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And what that does is that feels satisfying, but it doesn't feel good. People, and
It
even
does.
me
No, it
sometimes say,
does. It does.
"No, it
I
doesn't
mean,
feel good."
it feels good to me, but to be like in the moment, to let that anger
I
out does feel good for a split
uh,
second.
but I would say that's a feeling of satisfaction or validation, which is not joy. It's
No,
not
it's not joy. No,
it's not love.
I didn't say it was joy or
Yeah,
love.
yeah. But if I'm able to get to a point where, and I mean, you raise a good point there. I'm not trying to say people shouldn't get angry. That's a whole other thing. But if I'm able to get to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm having a good day, and my vibration is really important to me, and I don't want to feel upset, you know, that person's obviously either having a rough day or a rough life. And either way, that's got nothing to do with me. So I'm not going to steam about this guy, for the rest of today. I'm just going to be like, that was unfortunate. And I'm going to forgive that person. And that feels very difficult. And it doesn't feel satisfying at all, but it feels good. If you can actually get there, it feels good because you feel like, you know what? That's just a regular, imperfect human being. They're lashing out because of something that either happened to them before this moment or was happening to them in the moment. I've lashed out at people in my life. I'm not immune to that kind of behavior. And I'm just going to love that person and let them go. For most of us, it's very hard. and it's not satisfying at all. It's just sort of because it's just way more satisfying again to be like, give him the finger and like, rah, rah, rah.
Well, I can relate to what you're saying because I've been on every edge of that spectrum. If I'm in a really great mood and I'm like buzzing down the freeway and I'm jamming to my favorite song, and I notice that when I'm in a really good mood, some songs that I don't even like that much sometimes are amazing and I'm singing them at the top of my lungs, and then someone cuts me off, it just like bounces right off. It doesn't even affect me. I'm like, sometimes I've even thought, oh, that dude is playing the racing game, like literally in physical real life, because I can see them sometimes. I'm like, that looks like a racing game, and he's just swerving in and out. And God bless him. I hope he's safe, and and he stays in the vortex if he's in it right now, so that all is well. And then there's other times where I'm driving along and I'm late, I'm stressing, or I'm worrying about something, and then someone cuts me off, or and I'm like, mother, and I was like, and I'm just like, and each one is because of where I'm at
Yeah.
on that scale of like in the vortex, nowhere near the vortex, like so it really
Again,
goes back to by point of attraction.
yeah, and I'm not saying, look, I don't even expect myself to not lash out at somebody like internally the next time that happens. There, like you just said, there are days where I'm not in the best mood and I get angry in that moment. And actually, the best thing I can do for myself is, to swear
Press it. Yeah,
in
let
my
it
car.
out. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't feel whenever I'm lashing out at myself, at someone else, at a situation, I don't ever feel there's no way to feel love or happiness while that's happening.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel this lower, not right vibration. I feel like something's off.
Yeah.
Um,
I have no access to those other better
right.
feeling
Yeah.
thoughts and
But
emotions.
when I'm really feeling the emotion of love, or when I'm really feeling the emotion of compassion, or when I'm really feeling the emotion of joy,
Yeah.
there's just this sort of rightness to it. Like it feels like, oh yeah, like everything's good, like everything's okay, everything's like this is how it should be. And in the other scenario, when I'm like, like you can just see in my body language, I was just faking it just then, but you can see like this
Yeah.
is
Oh
not
yeah.
who we are. We
No.
can we can become this,
Yeah. Yeah.
but this is like who we are.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
honestly, when most people think about like, well, who in your life do you really want to be around? Like of everyone who would you like to spend the most time with? Very few people are going to be like, oh, I have this friend who's always in a bad mood and always complaining, and I would just spend all my time with them because they're great.
Think about it. Like I've been, this is really interesting because, it really comes back to a choice.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to like, how do I want to feel? What's my point of attraction? Because, we were talking in friend time. It's like, it's really about me. I get to choose. I'm attracting that. I forget what it.
It might be
And
challenging if you have a habit of one direction,
right.
but you do
Yeah.
still have the choice.
Yeah. And you've said this to me. You're like, if you're in a bad mood and you want to complain, you're not going to call me
Right.
if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Where if you're in a bad mood and you want to complain, but you do want to feel better, you're more likely to call me.
Right.
And so, I have felt that way too, depending on how I'm feeling. I have a range of friends that if I need to bitch and complain, I'm going to call that person. If I'm in a bad state and I want to feel better, I'm going to call these people. And so it really comes back to, I get to choose, and no one else is doing it to me. And I can point fingers sometimes, well, I feel this way because of you. But honestly, it's not. It's my point of attraction. I'm choosing those thoughts.
Yeah.
I may be doing it in reaction to, but I'm the one who will fuel the fire by continuing to think those thoughts. And I can always tell, like you said it so great in last week's episode about you caught yourself thinking those thoughts of resistance. and you caught yourself in the moment, which is so brilliant. I love when I do that, because it's like, that is powerful.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I could think those resistant thoughts, and I can do them for hours and days and weeks and months, and oy vey, what does that do for me? That's not serving me.
Yeah.
But to catch it in the moment and be like, oh man, okay, that feels really bad. Oh, this doesn't feel good at all. Let me.
And I think I think you're right. I think that's the key. But one of the things, you said something really early on, when we first introduced the topic here, where if we, sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit, but yeah, I just lost it completely. Sorry. I have these times where I've got like 6 concepts going in my brain, and I'm like, I'm trying to grab them all, and then I just go like, There's something about, well, what I was gonna tell was the story of like, because I'm a YouTube addict, like at this point in my life. I just love YouTube. I watch videos all the time, but the algorithm, you know, that picks videos for you is, you know, it's embarrassing, but I mean, it's like, it's a really good indicator of your vibration. You know, like if I want to know how I was feeling yesterday, all I got to do is fire up YouTube today, because YouTube today will show me what I was watching yesterday, what I was attracting. And like, I've noticed there's no videos I've been able to find of like a police traffic stop where, you know, somebody has a tail light out and the police officer pulls them over and says, "Oh, you have a tail light out." And the person says, "Oh, I'm sorry." And the police officer says, "I need to write you a ticket for that." And the person's like, "Well, that's understandable." And so he writes the ticket and he's like, "Please get that fixed." And they're like, "I will." And they drive off. Like that video is not on YouTube.
Yet it has happened over
many times.
and over and over again. Yeah.
But here's the video that's on YouTube.
But isn't it a choice?
Show me your hands.
You know, like, isn't it a choice? Because I'm like thinking, I would never search for that. If it won't even come up on my feed.
Yeah.
But if it does come up, would I click it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a choice.
But this is what I was going to say. This is all brought me back to my
fabulous.
Which is that our brain, you know, over the course of the evolution of humans, you know, our brains are set up, and their number one mission is to help us survive. But they do that by getting us to focus and look for and focus on and deal with problems, threats, and dangers.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so not only do we have habits of like, you know, if I have a habit of complaining about my next door neighbor, if I complain about my next door neighbor every day, the day I choose to not, it's going to be tough. You know, it's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
But on top of the habit thing, you also have your brain enjoys talking about, your brain is going to enjoy complaining about your neighbor more than not, because your brain is like looking for things to fix. Like it's looking for things to be wrong and out of place and broken and, you know, unjust and whatever. And it's so in both of those ways, you've got kind of like the neural pathways are working against our inner nature, because again, as we said last week, I think our inner nature is just, we're beings of love and compassion and joy and giving and receiving, and
the spiritual aspect of it, which
being
is
in relationships,
we are more of a spiritual being
being
than a
spiritual.
human being. Yeah.
But our physical brains, like the wiring in our brains, are geared towards, number one, a bunch of habits that we built over time that are somewhat not, you know, in line with who we really are. And also like this sort of biological evolutionary thing where like, I want to watch the video where the guy runs from the cops and they have to like run after him and he resists.
Almost like the caveman running away from the,
because but it's but it's important for me to just try. I mean, obviously I'm not doing well this week, but but to try to just practice choosing the other one. You know,
exactly. And creating that new neural pathway, like you said, where definitely my neural pathway is stronger, you know, like, God, I don't even know 8 years ago or whatever, when I came up with that, tell me something good, because Dr. Chris said it to me, and I'm like, I'm going to take that, Dr. Chris. I'm going to use that with my clients. And she's like, go right ahead, because I got it from, you know, whoever she got it from.
Yeah.
And because I knew that from the get-go, when we started the coaching call, that would help my clients shift their thinking, because I didn't want to hear about their problems right off the bat. We would eventually get there, but I wanted to, create a new neuro pathway. And
Yeah.
and today, I still like, I get together with a girlfriend and I'll be like, I'll start to want to complain. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
really, is that what you want to manifest? Is that
Yeah.
what you want to perpetuate, Stephanie? Like, what? And it really is a habitual thing. And now I used to say, well, it's just a habit. Yet now underneath that habit, it's because it's our human nature to fix and find problems.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything wrong. It's just the way we're wired,
Yeah.
and so yet at one point that did serve us well.
Yeah.
At the beginning of our
Which I
evolution.
think is a really good point, because I think this is really helpful for me, is to remember that I need to be gentle with myself around this.
Absolutely.
Because there can be this like repetitive cycle to it of like, well, if I have a habit of thinking negative thoughts, and then my brain is looking, is sort of fueling negative thoughts to look for dangerous thoughts and problems.
Yeah.
And then I listen to an episode of our podcast and I go, man, I really shouldn't be thinking negatively. I'm going to beat myself up for thinking negatively. Like that's like, now it's like a full circle where we're just in a negative loop.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not entirely our faults that it's that challenging.
No,
And
not at
I think
all.
it's really helpful for me to be, gentle with myself around that. Interesting to talk about YouTube just a little bit more. I did watch a video this morning of, and I don't know how this got into my feed. But I mean, the law of attraction obviously put it there, but there's a guy,
which is you attracted it. Yes. By your attention and focus.
There's a guy who he's an amazing lawn care specialist. So he has his own business and he has clients and he goes around and mows their lawns, but also does all this like expert trimming and just like when he leaves somebody's lawn, it's just like immaculate. But what this guy also does is if he has time, he doesn't do it like every day, but if he has time and he happens to be driving past somebody's yard who's just like kind of a disaster, he'll stop his truck with all his equipment, he'll knock on the front door and he'll ask if he can do their lawn for free. If they're home, they almost always say yes.
Yeah.
And then he films, he sets up his camera and does this time lapse of him, transforming this yard that's just like a disaster into this beautiful, immaculate thing. And he just gets in his truck and drives away. And it's kind of like what I was saying before of like, that feels good to watch that. Like when I watch a cop video, and nothing against the police, I love,
And there's a lot of good police officers out there that are just like doing an awesome job, that are kind and respectful and looking out for other people's well-being.
Right.
Thank you so much for being awesome police officers.
But when I'm watching cop videos of them slamming some dude who won't, follow their commands like into a wall or something, like, again, that feels satisfying, but it doesn't feel good. I don't feel joy watching that video. I don't feel joy watching two human beings, wrestle each other to the ground over this conflict that is happening. It's part of life, but I don't feel joy. I feel satisfaction. I feel excited. I feel like it's interesting, like I'm engaged in it. I don't feel joy, love, empathy. But when I watch the lawn care video, I felt that, like, as he was, he has it sped up with the time lapse, but it's like as he was like healing that lawn that was neglected, I was like, that's just, it's kindness, it's caring for nature, it's,
so do you think he's like in or near the vortex?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker, is that towards the end of the video, this neighbor of the person who's getting the free lawn, manicure, is pissed that this guy's doing it, and she gets even more pissed that he's doing it for free. And so he just has one part of the video, and he warns you about it in the beginning. He's like, there's this weird part where this lady comes out and just yells at me. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to do, but whatever. And it's literally like when I watched that, I wasn't really thinking about that lady. I was thinking like that's what I do sometimes too. Is like the universe has, provided this amazing life for me, and I've attracted all these amazing friends and experiences and money and all this stuff. And sometimes I'm able to enjoy it and really appreciate it and stay in a high vibration. But sometimes I also let my brain be that angry lady and just ruin something that but it was just so clear. I don't mean to rag on this one lady, but like it was so clear, like there was nothing in the energy of what he was doing where there was any place for negativity. It was so clearly her coming from some other like left field place.
Her point of attraction,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Her energy, what she had been
was
thinking,
so clear. It was like about her point of attraction. Yeah. And the thing is, he was in such a good state that it didn't affect him much at all.
I did that earlier and I hadn't thought about that in
but it's
so
like
long.
her coming over and yelling at him and not getting like, I guess you want to get into an argument, and he was just kind of like shrugging his shoulders, and she storms off, and it's like, oh, she's worse. Like she went over to try to fix this thing that she thinks shouldn't be happening, and it didn't happen. So now she feels worse, and it's like,
why
I do that. I do that.
And you know why it didn't affect him? Because one who is in the vortex is more powerful than a million who are not.
Yeah.
It's being in or near the vortex, which is that, feeling really good, being in that high vibration of love and appreciation or joy or relaxation or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like having shock absorbers on. And so if something like that comes, it just bounces right off. It doesn't even affect my vibration because I'm in that high state. It's like, yeah, whatever. And I just mosey on along. And that's what that guy was a perfect example of that. And that's one of the benefits. Like we were talking about driving earlier, and when I'm driving, I'm cruising along and I'm happy joy and I'm listening to music that's blaring and I'm dancing in my car while I'm driving. And then all of a sudden I'll like almost get in an accident, but I'll swerve in just enough time. And it's like, thank you, God, because I was in that high vibration, even though I almost got into it, I didn't. And that is the benefits of being in and near the vortex. What stuff will happen, it'll just like bounce right off you.
All right. Great discussion as always. We hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much for listening or watching and joining us for our discussion today. We're really grateful to have you here. We just want to remind you, at this point, we're posting a brand new episode every Monday morning for you. We also truly appreciate you doing whatever the platform you're consuming us on allows you to do to support us and let other people know about us. All of our social media links and our email address are in the doodly-doo down below on the YouTube version of this episode. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.